Most people don't wake up one day and decide to live a meaningless life. That's not how it happens. It happens quietly. It happens slowly. It happens when we start making decisions based on what will get us approval instead of what gives us purpose. The first golden rule most people break is this: they ignore their why and chase applause. And the tragedy is not that they fail. The tragedy is that many of them succeed at the wrong thing. From the outside, it looks impressive. The job title sounds good, the lifestyle looks enviable, the praise is loud, people say you're doing great, and for a while that applause feels good, it feels like validation, it feels like progress. But applause is a terrible compass because applause tells you where you are admired, not where you belong. When you don't know why you do what you do, you become addicted to how it looks. You start measuring your life by likes, promotions, comparisons, and compliments. You begin to ask, will this impress them? Instead of asking, does this fulfill me? And every time you choose applause over purpose, you move one step further away from yourself. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Applause is temporary. It always fades. There will always be someone newer, louder, younger, faster. And when the noise quiets down, when the crowd moves on, you are left alone with your choices. That's when regret speaks the loudest, not because you didn't achieve enough, but because what you achieved never meant enough. Purpose works differently. Purpose doesn't shout, purpose whispers. It shows up as a feeling you can't fully explain, but deeply recognize. It's the sense that what you're doing matters, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Purpose gives meaning to effort. It gives context to sacrifice. It makes hard days feel worthwhile instead of pointless. But purpose requires courage. Because choosing your why often means disappointing people. It means saying no to paths that look safe. It means stepping away from expectations that were never yours to begin with. And that's why so many people avoid it. Approval feels safer than alignment. Applause feels easier than authenticity. We are taught from a young age to chase markers of success without questioning their meaning. Get the grades, get the job, get the title, get the approval. Very few people ever stop to ask, why does this matter to me? And when you don't ask that question early, life will force you to ask it later, usually through burnout or emptiness or that quiet feeling at night when everything looks fine but nothing feels right. Regret doesn't come from failing to impress others. Regret comes from betraying yourself for too long. It comes from realizing that you spent years building a life that looks good to everyone else but feels wrong to you. It comes from understanding that you were so busy proving your worth that you forgot to define it. People who live with purpose are not immune to struggle. They still work hard. They still face doubt. But there's a difference. Their struggle has direction. Their effort has meaning. When they fall, they know why they're getting back up. When things get difficult, they don't immediately question their path because their path is anchored to something deeper than approval. Chasing applause makes you reactive. Living your why makes you intentional. When applause is your fuel, you constantly look outward for permission and validation. When purpose is your fuel, you look inward for alignment and clarity. One makes you dependent, the other makes you grounded. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing applause and start living your why, the right kind of respect often follows. Not the loud kind, not the shallow kind, but the deep kind. The kind that comes from consistency, integrity, and clarity. The kind that lasts even when the spotlight moves on. The reason this rule is so often broken is because society rewards appearance faster than it rewards meaning. You get immediate feedback for looking successful. You rarely get instant rewards for doing something meaningful. Purpose takes time to reveal its value. Applause gives instant gratification, and human beings are wired to choose the immediate unless they are intentional. So the question is not, what do you do? The real question is, why do you do it? Because when your why is clear, your decisions become simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You stop chasing everything and start committing to something. You stop living for the crowd and start living with conviction. Years from now, when the noise fades, when the titles are forgotten, when the applause is silent, you will not regret the moments you followed your why. You will regret the times you ignored it. You will regret the chances you didn't take because they didn't look impressive enough. You will regret the life you postponed for approval that never truly satisfied you. The first golden rule is not about success. It's about alignment. It's about building a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. because applause can tell you you're winning, but only purpose can tell you you're living. The second golden rule most people break is this: they trade long-term fulfillment for short-term comfort. And at the moment they make that trade, it rarely feels like a mistake. It feels reasonable, it feels justified, it feels harmless, because comfort doesn't announce itself as the enemy. Comfort shows up disguised as logic, safety, and patience. And that's why it's so dangerous. Human beings are wired to avoid discomfort. Our brains are designed to keep us safe, not to help us grow. So when faced with a hard choice and an easy one, comfort whispers, "Do it later. Wait until you're ready. You deserve a break." And slowly, almost invisibly, later becomes never. Short-term comfort is seductive because it offers immediate relief. Skip the difficult conversation and enjoy temporary peace. Stay in the familiar job and avoid the fear of the unknown. Delay the hard work and enjoy rest today. And none of these choices feel catastrophic on their own. In fact, most of them feel smart in the moment. The problem is not the single choice. The problem is the pattern it creates. Fulfillment, on the other hand, demands effort before reward. It asks you to endure discomfort now for meaning later. It requires patience, discipline, and a willingness to feel uneasy. And because fulfillment pays dividends slowly, many people abandon it before it has a chance to compound. Here's the hard truth: the pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Yet most people choose the lighter discomfort now, not realizing they are accumulating a much heavier burden for later. Comfort delays pain, it does not eliminate it, it simply transfers it into the future, where it grows with interest. Look at the lives people regret most deeply. Rarely do they regret working too hard for something that mattered. They regret the risks they didn't take, the effort they postponed, the potential they left unexplored because it felt uncomfortable to pursue. Regret is often the echo of comfort choices made years earlier. Comfort feels safe because it keeps everything familiar, but familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. You can be comfortable and deeply unhappy at the same time. You can be safe and still feel stuck. Growth requires leaving what you know for what you believe in, and belief is always uncomfortable before it becomes confidence. The lie we tell ourselves is that we will choose fulfillment once conditions are perfect. Once we have more time, more money, more confidence, more certainty. But fulfillment is not something you arrive at when life gets easier. Fulfillment is built by doing hard things when life is hard. Comfort waits for ideal conditions. Fulfillment creates them. People often confuse comfort with balance. But balance is not the absence of effort. Balance is knowing which effort is worth it. Avoiding discomfort altogether is not balance. It's stagnation. And stagnation, over time, turns into dissatisfaction, resentment, and regret. Every meaningful achievement requires a season of discomfort. Learning feels awkward before it feels natural. Growth feels painful before it feels empowering. Change feels scary before it feels liberating. Comfort skips the process. Fulfillment embraces it. And here's what most people don't realize until it's too late. Discomfort is temporary. Regret is permanent. The late nights, the difficult choices, the sacrifices, they all have an expiration date. But the question, what if I had tried, can last a lifetime. People who live fulfilled lives are not stronger or braver by nature. They simply made a different agreement with discomfort. They stopped seeing it as a signal to retreat and started seeing it as a sign of progress. Discomfort became evidence that they were growing, not failing. Short-term comfort also shrinks your world. You start making decisions to protect what you have instead of pursuing what you could become. You lower your expectations to match your effort instead of raising your effort to match your potential. And slowly, your dreams become smaller, more practical, more reasonable. Until one day, you realize you've been living far below what you once imagined. Fulfillment expands your world. It stretches you. It demands more of you than comfort ever will. But it also gives more back. It gives you pride instead of relief, meaning instead of ease, satisfaction instead of distraction. The greatest irony is that the comfort people chase today often becomes the prison they resent tomorrow. The job that once felt secure becomes suffocating. The routine that once felt stable becomes boring. The avoidance that once felt peaceful becomes emptiness. Comfort does not stand still. It decays. Fulfillment, however, compounds. Small, uncomfortable choices made consistently create a life that feels rich, even when it's hard. A life where effort makes sense, where struggle has purpose, where you can look back and say, that was difficult, but it was worth it. So the real question is not whether discomfort will be part of your life. It will be. The question is when you want to face it. Now, by choice, in pursuit of something meaningful, or later by regret, wondering why you didn't. Breaking this golden rule doesn't ruin your life overnight. It erodes it slowly, day by day, decision by decision, until one day you wake up comfortable, safe, and deeply unfulfilled. Long-term fulfillment is not built by avoiding discomfort. It is built by choosing the right discomfort. And the people who understand this early don't just build better careers or achieve more goals, they build lives they don't need to escape from. The third golden rule most people break is this: they stay silent when their values are compromised. And this silence rarely feels dramatic. It doesn't look like betrayal in the moment. It looks like politeness. It looks like professionalism. It looks like not wanting to cause trouble. But over time, that silence becomes one of the loudest sources of regret a person can carry. Values are not slogans. They are not words we display when it's convenient. Values only reveal themselves when they are tested. And they are tested most often in quiet moments, not public ones. In meetings where something feels off but everyone nods. In relationships where a line is crossed but ignored. In situations where speaking up feels risky, uncomfortable, or lonely. Silence feels safe in the short term. It protects relationships. It preserves status. It avoids conflict. But silence also sends a message, especially to yourself. It says, this matters less than fitting in. And every time you send that message, you weaken your own self-trust. Self-trust is fragile. It's built when your actions align with your beliefs. It's eroded when they don't. And the fastest way to erode self-trust is to repeatedly betray your values in the name of peace. Because peace that costs you your integrity is not peace. It's avoidance. People often say, I didn't want to rock the boat, but the boat is not the problem. The problem is what happens inside you when you keep pretending the water is calm while you're slowly drowning. Resentment builds, frustration grows, and one day that resentment explodes in a way that surprises everyone, including yourself. Regret is rarely about the conflict you faced. It's about the conflict you avoided. Years later, people don't say, I wish I had stayed quiet. They say, I wish I had spoken up. They remember the moments they felt something was wrong and chose comfort over courage. There's a cost to speaking up, yes. It can create tension. It can lead to rejection. It can make you unpopular. But there is also a cost to staying silent. And that cost is internal. It's the slow loss of identity, the gradual disconnection from who you know you are. When you don't defend your values, you teach others how to treat you. Silence becomes permission, not because people are bad, but because clarity was never provided. Boundaries unspoken are boundaries unenforced. And eventually you start living by rules you never agreed to. Values give us direction. They are the internal compass that helps us navigate uncertainty. But a compass is useless if you ignore it whenever the path becomes uncomfortable. You can't claim values only when they're convenient. That's not conviction, that's preference. Courage doesn't always look loud. Sometimes courage is calm, measured, and respectful. Speaking up doesn't mean attacking. It means naming what matters. It means saying, this doesn't align with what I believe, even when your voice shakes, especially when your voice shakes. Many people wait for the perfect moment to speak up, the perfect words, the perfect timing, the perfect level of confidence. But values don't wait for perfection. They demand action in imperfect moments. And confidence doesn't arrive before courage. It arrives because of it. The reason this rule is so often broken is because belonging feels essential. Human beings are social creatures. We fear exclusion more than we fear misalignment. So we compromise quietly, telling ourselves it's just this once. But it's rarely just once. It becomes a habit. And habits shape identity. Over time, that identity starts to feel unfamiliar. You look in the mirror and wonder when you became someone who stays quiet about things that matter. And that realization hurts more than any argument ever could. People who live with integrity are not fearless. They feel the same fear as everyone else. The difference is they value self-respect more than external approval. They understand that belonging without authenticity is a fragile form of connection. It requires constant self-erasure to maintain. And here's the paradox. When you speak up with clarity and respect, the right people don't leave. They lean in. Trust deepens. Relationships strengthen. Not because conflict is enjoyable, but because honesty creates safety. Silence may feel safe, but it rarely builds trust. Even when speaking up leads to loss, the loss is often revealing. It shows you which environments require you to shrink and which allow you to stand fully as yourself. And losing a place where your values are not welcome is not failure, it's alignment. The greatest regret is not being misunderstood by others. It's understanding yourself and choosing not to act. Because every time you ignore your values, you make it harder to recognize them next time. The signal gets quieter, the discomfort becomes familiar, and that's when people truly lose their way. Values are meant to guide behavior, not decorate identity. They are the standard you hold yourself to, not the image you project. And when you honor them, even imperfectly, you build something far more valuable than approval. You build self-respect. Years from now, you won't remember every uncomfortable conversation, but you will remember the moments you abandoned your own voice. And the people who break this rule don't regret the tension they cause, they regret the silence that changed them. Speaking up when your values are compromised is not about winning an argument. It's about not losing yourself. The fourth golden rule most people break is this: they confuse being busy with being important. And at first, this mistake feels productive. It feels responsible. It even feels admirable. Full calendars are praised. Long hours are celebrated. Exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. And slowly, almost invisibly, busyness becomes an identity. Being busy gives the illusion of progress. When you are constantly in motion, it feels like you are moving forward. Tasks are completed. Emails are answered. Meetings are attended. But motion is not the same as direction. You can run all day and still end up exactly where you started. Importance is not measured by how full your schedule is. It's measured by how aligned your actions are with what actually matters. And when busyness replaces focus, people stop asking the most important question: is this moving me toward the life I want or just keeping me occupied? Busyness is attractive because it protects us from reflection. When every moment is filled, there's no time to ask uncomfortable questions, no space to evaluate whether the work we're doing is meaningful or merely habitual. Being busy becomes a convenient distraction from purpose. Many people fill their days reacting instead of choosing. They respond to requests instead of setting priorities. They allow urgency to dictate their actions instead of importance. And because urgency is loud and importance is quiet, urgency usually wins. Over time, this creates exhaustion without fulfillment. You end each day tired but not satisfied. You feel productive but not proud. And that's because activity without intention drains energy instead of generating it. You give a lot, but you don't build much. People often say, "I don't have time," but time is not the real issue. Attention is. We all have the same number of hours. The difference lies in how intentionally we invest them. Busyness spends time. Importance invests it. When you confuse the two, you start saying yes to things that steal your energy and no to things that build it. You attend meetings that don't need you. You chase deadlines that don't move the needle. You fill your schedule with tasks that feel urgent but lack meaning. The danger of busyness is that it rewards immediacy. You get quick wins, fast feedback, the satisfaction of checking things off a list. Importance, however, often requires patience. It demands deep work, long thinking, quiet focus, and those things don't always feel productive in the moment, so people avoid them. They choose visible effort over valuable effort. They prefer to look busy rather than be effective, and society reinforces this behavior. We praise hustle more than impact. We reward responsiveness more than clarity. But here's the cost. When you are busy with everything, you are focused on nothing. Your energy becomes fragmented, your attention scattered, and slowly, the work that truly matters is pushed to someday, a day that rarely arrives. Importance requires saying no, and saying no is uncomfortable. It risks disappointing people. It creates tension, It forces you to confront the fear of missing out or being misunderstood. Busyness avoids that discomfort by saying yes to everything. Yet the most impactful people are not the busiest. They are the clearest. They know what matters and protect it fiercely. They design their days around priorities, not pressure. And because of that, their work has depth, not just volume. Being busy can make you feel needed. Being important requires you to be intentional, and intention demands reflection. It asks you to step back and evaluate whether your actions align with your goals and values. That kind of reflection feels slow in a fast world, but it's the only way to ensure you're not climbing the wrong ladder efficiently. Regret often comes from realizing how much energy was spent on things that didn't matter. Years of meetings that led nowhere, projects that looked impressive but felt empty, days so full that life quietly passed by in between. Busyness also creates fragility. When your sense of worth is tied to how much you do, rest feels like failure, stillness feels uncomfortable, and without stillness, clarity never arrives. You become dependent on activity to feel valuable. Importance, however, creates resilience. When you know why you do what you do, you can work hard and rest without guilt. You understand that rest is not the opposite of productivity. It's part of it. The irony is that slowing down often leads to greater impact. When you focus deeply on fewer things, the quality of your work improves. Your thinking sharpens, your decisions become more deliberate, and your effort actually moves you forward instead of just wearing you out. Breaking this rule doesn't feel like a mistake until much later. It feels like responsibility, dedication, commitment. But one day you pause, you look at everything you've done, and you ask, what did all this effort actually build? That question can be unsettling, especially if the answer is unclear. Being important is not about being everywhere. It's about being where it matters most. It's not about filling every hour. It's about making certain hours count. Busyness makes you feel alive in the moment. Importance gives your life meaning over time. And the people who regret breaking this rule are not those who worked hard. They are those who worked hard on the wrong things. When you stop confusing movement with progress, you reclaim your energy. When you stop mistaking urgency for importance, you regain control of your time. And when you choose focus over frenzy, your work stops feeling like noise and starts feeling like contribution. Because in the end, no one regrets not being busy enough. They regret being busy with what didn't matter. The fifth golden rule most people break is this: they wait for confidence instead of acting with courage. And this rule is broken. Quietly, politely, and with very good excuses. People say they are being responsible. They say they are being patient. They say they are just not ready yet. But what they are really doing is waiting for a feeling that only arrives after action, not before it. Confidence is widely misunderstood. Many believe it is something you must possess before you begin, as if confidence is a prerequisite, a permission slip, a signal that says, now you're ready. But confidence does not work that way. Confidence is not the cause of action. It is the result of it. Courage comes first, always. Courage is the decision to step forward without guarantees. It is the willingness to act while doubt is still present. And for most people, that is deeply uncomfortable, because acting without confidence means risking failure, embarrassment, rejection, or looking foolish. So instead, they wait. They wait to feel more prepared. They wait to feel more certain. They wait to feel less afraid. And while they wait, time passes, opportunities fade, momentum is lost, and one day they look back and realize they weren't lacking confidence. They were lacking permission from themselves. Fear is not a sign that you are unqualified. Fear is often a sign that you are about to grow. But most people interpret fear as a warning instead of an invitation. They treat it as a stop sign rather than a signal that something meaningful is on the other side. The irony is that the people we admire most did not feel confident when they started. They felt uncertain. They felt scared. They felt unprepared. What set them apart was not the absence of fear. It was their relationship with it. They didn't wait for fear to disappear. They learned to move with it. Waiting for confidence creates stagnation. It keeps dreams theoretical. Ideas stay trapped in notebooks. Goals remain conversations instead of commitments. And because no visible failure occurs, people convince themselves that they are being cautious rather than afraid. But caution that prevents action eventually becomes regret. Confidence is built through evidence, and evidence only comes from experience. You gain confidence by doing the thing you are unsure about, surviving it, and realizing you are more capable than you thought. Without action, there is no evidence. Without evidence, confidence never arrives. This is why so many people feel stuck. They are waiting for an internal shift that only external action can create. They want to feel brave before they act. But bravery is the label we give to action after the fact. In the moment, it just feels like fear with movement. Courage does not eliminate doubt. It moves forward despite it. And each time you do that, something changes. Not immediately, not dramatically, but incrementally. You trust yourself a little more. You question your fears a little less. You realize that uncertainty is survivable. The cost of waiting is rarely obvious in the beginning. It shows up later, as missed chances and unasked questions, as ideas that never left your mind, as a life that feels smaller than it could have been. And the regret is not loud, it's quiet. It sounds like, I wonder what would have happened if I had tried. People often say they don't want to fail, but failure is not the thing they fear most. What they fear most is judgment, being seen trying and not succeeding, being exposed as imperfect. Waiting for confidence is often a strategy to avoid being seen before you feel safe. But safety is an illusion. There is no version of growth that doesn't involve vulnerability. There is no meaningful change that doesn't require risk. And there is no confidence that arrives without first stepping into uncertainty. Courage also has momentum. The first step is the hardest. The second is easier. The third feels more natural. Over time, what once felt terrifying becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar begins to feel safe. This is how confidence is built, not imagined. People who live with confidence are not fearless. They are practiced. They have practiced acting before they felt ready. They have practiced trusting themselves in uncertainty. And that practice compounds. Waiting feels passive, but it is an active choice. It is a choice to stay where you are, to accept the discomfort of stagnation instead of the discomfort of growth. And while stagnation feels less risky in the moment, it carries a much higher long-term cost. Courage does not guarantee success, but waiting guarantees nothing changes. And most people don't regret the attempts that failed. They regret the attempts they never made, because failure teaches. Inaction only leaves questions unanswered. The belief that confidence comes first keeps people trapped in preparation mode, always learning, always planning, always improving, but never starting. Preparation without action is just another form of delay. At some point, courage means saying, I don't know. If this will work, but I'm willing to find out. It means accepting uncertainty as part of the process instead of a reason to avoid it. Years later, confidence will not be what you wish you had more of. You will wish you had more courage when it mattered. Courage to speak, courage to start, courage to step forward before you felt ready. The people who break this rule don't lack potential. They lack movement. And potential without action is one of the most painful forms of regret because it never gets the chance to become real. Confidence is not a gift given to the chosen few. It is built by those willing to move first, to act while unsure, to trust that clarity follows commitment, not the other way around. Courage is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It often feels shaky, imperfect, and uncomfortable, but it is the doorway through which confidence eventually walks. And the greatest regret is not that you felt afraid, it's that you let fear make decisions for you, because fear fades when faced. But the regret of waiting only grows stronger with time. Every regret we carry can usually be traced back to a moment when we knew what mattered, but chose something easier instead. We knew our why, but we chased applause. We felt the pull of growth, but chose comfort. We sensed our values being compromised, but stayed silent. We filled our days with movement instead of meaning. We waited to feel confident instead of acting with courage. None of these choices felt wrong at the time. That is what makes them so dangerous. Regret is rarely born from a single decision. It is built slowly through small compromises we make with ourselves. One quiet yes when we should have said no. One delayed action when we should have stepped forward. One moment of silence when our voice mattered. Over time, these moments add up, and one day we realize we have been living on autopilot instead of intention. The purpose of these 5 golden rules is not to create pressure or perfection. It is to create awareness, because awareness gives us back our power. The moment you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can choose alignment over approval. meaning over comfort, integrity over silence, focus over frenzy, courage over waiting. Life does not ask us to get everything right. It asks us to be honest, honest about what matters to us, honest about what drains us, honest about where we've been hiding behind busyness, comfort, or fear. And honesty, when acted upon, is one of the most powerful forces for change. The future is shaped less by the big decisions we fear and more by the small decisions we repeat. Every day you are casting votes for the person you are becoming. When your actions match your values, those votes build self-respect. When they don't, they build regret. The choice is rarely dramatic, but it is always meaningful. You don't need to rewrite your entire life to start honoring these rules. You just need to take the next right step. Speak once when you would normally stay silent. Say no to one thing that doesn't matter. Take action on one thing you've been waiting to feel ready for. Small acts of courage create big shifts over time. The most fulfilled people are not those who avoided mistakes. They are the ones who learn to listen early, adjust quickly, and live intentionally. They understand that growth is uncomfortable, but regret is heavier, and they choose discomfort with purpose over comfort with emptiness. One day the noise will fade, the titles will lose their shine, the applause will quiet down, and what will remain is the relationship you have with yourself. That relationship is shaped by the choices you make when no one is watching, when you honor your why, when you stand by your values, when you choose focus over distraction and courage over delay. The goal is not to reach the end of life without fear of failure. The goal is to reach it without the haunting question of what if, because a life lived with intention may be challenging, but it is deeply satisfying. And in the end, the greatest success is not being admired by many, but being at peace with the person you became.